Hello there, everybody. Hola, mi gente. My name is Dr. Nicole Peak. I am a licensed psychologist based out of Colorado. And today it is rainy and gross here today. But that's okay because it's been a little hot, and so I don't mind a little bit of a rainy weather. But, hold on a second. A little parched, need a little bit of water. So, I want to continue our series. We've been talking about a lot of issues with eating, right? We've been talking about the difficulties. We talked about dieting. We talked about set point weight. We have talked about, trying to regulate your eating. And today I want to continue that, right? And for those of you that are lost and don't know what I'm talking about, I don't know what to tell you, boo. I'm just kidding. That would be mean. Go back and see, watch the videos. We got lots of them. Go back and watch so that you can be brought up to speed on what we've been talking about here. So today, though, I do want to continue the conversation. And today I want to cover what is known as scratching the itch. And what do we mean by that? So one of the things that we've talked about with the problems with dieting, right, is that it's very restrictive. Typically, there can be kind of elimination of whole food groups. And again, the problem with that, as we've talked about, right, short-term can work, long-term, the data on that is not good, boo. It's not good. Take a peek yourself. I'm telling you, long-term data is not good on that. And so I will share with you that inevitably people fall off the wagon. And when I say that, I mean people will inevitably not be able to follow these rigid food rules. And typically when people fall off the wagon, they will kind of eat lots, oftentimes overeat the food group has been eliminated, right? It's just kind of how human. Have I met someone that falls off the wagon and has not been eating carbs, has been eliminating carbs for a long time, and then all of a sudden starts overeating like salads and things. So they're typically going for the carbs. And so one way to kind of keep from kind of again, right, we talked about last time what sets us up for overeating oftentimes is undereating, right? And it's kind of like the more and more I try not to think about something or a particular food group, the more and more our brain obviously wants to think about it, and people can become obsessive about it. And so one way around that is what's known as scratching the itch. Scratching the itch is really kind of paying attention to your urges and desires with regards to food and scratching that itch, right? So if you feel like having some cookies, go ahead and have cookies. If you feel like having cake, go have cake. If you feel like having M&Ms, go have M&Ms. If you feel like having bread, go for it, girl. And in scratching the itch, it allows you to then move on, right? That you can, again, right, the more and more I try not to have something, the more and more I kind of want it. That's unfortunately just kind of how human nature, how we're made, right? And even if you think about it from a caloric stance, it kind of makes sense, and hear me out on this, right? So imagine you're at a party, right? And you go there and you're trying to, follow your food rules if you're on a diet, for example, and someone puts out a fresh plate of cookies. I'm talking like out of the oven, ooey gooey, soft, melty in your mouth cookies, right? And you, trying to be good, decide not to have any. I'm not gonna have any because I'm not supposed to, and so you go for the salad and maybe you skip dessert, right? And you think you're being good. But then you go home and you're like, man, those cookies, those were really good. Oh man, I miss having soft cookies like that. Man, when's the last time I had, no, I mustn't have it. And back and forth until finally, inevitably, you cave. Either it's late night and you go drive to the grocery store and get that box of cookies, or the next day, or maybe days later, you're at the grocery store and you're like, finally, I'm gonna have those cookies. But instead of having the 2 or 3, you end up eating the whole box of cookies. So again, if we think about it from an amount stance, caloric stance, and again, I'm not advocating calorie counting, but I'm just saying, if we think about it, it just makes more sense if you just allowed yourself to have the 2, the 3, the 5 cookies at the party versus then indulging in the whole box afterwards, right? So allow yourself to have them. Same thing if you're somebody, for example, that enjoys a piece of chocolate maybe every day, or have something that you enjoy every day. If somebody brings that to the office, for example, it's not a big deal because you've allowed yourself to have it, versus people that really are kind of very stringent in following their food rules, right, it becomes almost what we call kind of like the Last Supper, all or none, kind of that dieting mentality, right? I'm gonna eat it as much as possible because I'm not supposed to be having this. Versus I allow myself, so it's not a big deal if somebody brings a box of chocolates to the office because I just allow myself to eat it. And so I can eat it in small or kind of normal, regular amounts because I allow myself to have that. Now, have you ever noticed what happens when you do scratch that itch? And even if you scratch that itch repeatedly, right? So I'll give you a wonderful example. Girl Scout season. I love Girl Scout season. I love Girl Scout cookies. I think it's a great organization. I love to support. I love my young entrepreneurs. And so, yeah, I will get my Girl Scout cookies and I get my fill and I allow myself to scratch that itch as much as I want. Whole sleeve of Thin Mints, all kinds of yummy stuff. However, after a while, after allowing myself to do that and no holds bar, I notice over time that I'm like, ugh, I start to kind of like almost like OD on Girl Scout cookies where I'm like, ugh, like I kind of don't want them anymore because I've just had a lot of them and just don't need to be eating anymore. And in fact, I'll keep some in my freezer or to the pantry in the event that at some point, I'm sure I'll finish it throughout time. But usually I'm pretty good until like the next season, Girl Scout cookies, and then, oh yeah, I remember the Girl Scout cookies and I scratch that itch. So when allowed to do that, when we allow to scratch that itch, we're able to then move on and you don't get stuck obsessing and thinking about food in the way that people that are very restrictive often do. So the moral of this story is scratch that itch, have the damn cookie, boo, and just get on with your life. That's it. Okay? So thank you so much. Now you know I am Dr. Nicole Peak here helping you to learn things, not just to feel better, but to actually get better. Please leave some comments below and I will see you in the next one. Bye.